Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about FPV Freestyle. If you're looking for probably one of the best FPV Freestyle quads you can get your hands on as far as frame durability, components on here, and performance, you need to know a name. Neil Whitley. He's probably one of the most successful manufacturers and designers out there that owns Caddx Machineworks. Neil is just super successful. Everything he touches seems to be really great. His designs just keep coming out, and everything he releases on his Facebook page always does impress me by his design. Most of his quads, if you've ever seen them in person, they're so much different than something like, you know, an Ishin Wizard here. While this might look super thick to some brand new beginners, this type of cheaper carbon fiber is super brittle, and when you have a hard crash, if this comes near concrete, this one's going to break. When I've tested this one, we tested this one today on a freestyle flight, and I did crash into the concrete, unfortunately, but as heavy and large as this looks, it could take a big hit. So I was really actually worried about the GoPro when it hit the ground more so than the quad itself. The GoPro mount has some give to it, but it took a full frontal hit, and we have a little bit of damage, which I'm going to show you. But what I want you to know about this type of quad is that it can freestyle and it can also do cinema. So we're going to do two types of flights today. We're going to take it out, fly it on the Crossfire as always. We're going to test out the air units and see if that Crossfire holds up for our signal. And after that, I'm going to show you some quick freestyle with it, and we'll come back to the bench. We'll check it out on the bench. I'll show you what was damaged on this quad after a hard hit to the concrete. Here we go.
concrete crash. I see some carbon damage, but let's check it out on the bench.
All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. What'd you think about that? That was a pretty good crash. Now, right away I didn't break anything on the frame. I did break the GoPro mount. This snapped right at the bottom, and this is a 3D printed mount, so a really hard hit with a quad this heavy and a 6S 1300 battery. I'm not surprised, but what I was most concerned about was the arms going in, and it looks like I hit on this side right here, and I had a prop that kind of bent. This tip bent down. You can still see it's kind of bent down. The motor is fine, no problem with the motor, and it has an extra bit of carbon off the end of most of these style arms, and you can see right here where this carbon bent up and was compromised. So it chewed it in about half. It did not break the support arm right here, which is super good. And there is dampening between the support arm and the quad's arm coming out the front. This is the front left arm, and it did not bust the main part of the arm right here. So there's no flexing right here where it mounts to the main body on the bottom plate and the top plate here. There's two bolts that are holding that on. We have the flight controller here. It's a 30 by 30 type of setup, and two bolts in the front for these TPU mounts holding the camera in place. But nothing on here was broken, which is kind of cool. It's amazing. I went to pick it up and I was expecting a broken arm, at the minimum a broken arm. So not even the front supports are broken. These are 6mm arms on here, super beastie, and just that little bit of extra carbon on the end of the arm, that's what kept it from breaking further down here and kind of giving some compromise to the motor, the way the motor's mounted. So the motor's fine, and I believe that the shock of this frame when it hit, this helps a lot up front right here, and the short standoffs. You notice that Neil uses like short standoffs everywhere. It's sort of a lowrider configuration, and if you have full-size standoffs, maybe coming up just even a fraction of an inch taller, puts a little more flex in the frame when it goes in forward and it hits a frontal crash. The more flex you have in these shock paths, it will create more problems for cracking the carbon fiber. And since he shortened out these posts and made them a little shorter, it takes a blunt hit and it bounces that shock off, which is what we want. So that's kind of a cool design that he shortened everything out here and made it that much more durable for a bando basher. So the DoppleBanger on the scale is 615 grams without a 6S battery. Let's go ahead and add a 6S 1300 on here. That's going to get it up to 817 grams with the GoPro. So it is a more stout and heavier quad to fly. On the DoppleBanger 5 that I got, we have T motors on here, and these are the F40 Pros 1950 kV motors. And so I have to say that the high end of the throttle works out really well. You really can't feel the weight of the GoPro on here. And running those motors, this power system is controlled by the T-Motor F7 HD 30 by 30 flight controller. It also has separate ESCs in here. These are 4-in-1 ESCs, and these are running 4-in-1 BLE32 55 amp. And another interesting feature about the DoppleBanger that Neil designed differently than a lot of the other quads out there is he put the battery cable up front, and you'll notice that he also put a rubber grommet around the battery cable to keep that from shearing on the frame and vibration. And he also put a capacitor here to clean up any ESC noise you might have with analog systems and make sure you have less pop when you're plugging in a 6S battery. If you're going to put a 6S battery on there, the largest one that you can put on here is probably going to be something like a 6S 1550. And he probably did this type of setup because we have a lot going on back here with this mount. And to simplify that, he did a TPU mount with the Immortal T on the very bottom back there, a couple zip ties around that to hold it in place, and then we have a vertical air unit antenna coming up here and one on the horizontal. So what that does is gives you the best signal on both vertices back to your goggles. Now, one other thing that you really need to know about Caddx Machineworks is that their frames are durable. They're designed to be durable, they're designed to take an impact, and they're designed to really, this one's designed to fly bandos. Now, you really wouldn't take something like this out and fly a bando. You're going to come home with something broke on this quad. And one of the ways, the big differences that you can tell the difference between a cheap quad, something like the Eachine Wizard I have here, is looking at the hardware. One of the worst things about cheap hardware is it strips. Even on the M3 bolts, like on the Ishin Wizard, I've had to get a pair of snips and crank these bolts off, or you know, take my Dremel tool and Dremel them off. They do strip, and they're soft. These bolts on the DoppleBanger are extra thick, and they have an extra large head on them. And when you put your M3 driver there, they're not going to strip. They have full surface heads on them, and they do stick out a little further, but it gives you much more durability for this quad frame, for the sickest like bando hits ever. And basically today with our crash, it's kind of like we hit a bando wall, straight in head first. Now I did break the TPU mount here for the GoPro, you know, and again I put a little damage on the end of this motor right here, but I think overall I'm pretty impressed, obviously impressed with the way this took a hit today, straight to the concrete, because if it had been this guy, I would have been coming home with some broken parts. However, you know, this is cheap as dirt, but if you want to find the best quality freestyle bando basher quad out there right now, you got to check out Caddx stuff. If you're brand new to FPV, welcome to some of the best stuff you can get your hands on out there. And I'm not allowed to say the best very often because people get pissed when I say the best, but you know what? I think most people are going to agree with me that Caddx is pretty much top shelf hardware, components, and built to order freestyle frames. So not only does he do freestyle, he also does cinema rigs. So a little bit of everything. And I'm hoping that we see a 7-inch come my way at some point from Caddx. It would be the sickest ride ever. So I'm happy with this one for now, and I'm probably going to get another GoPro mount, or just fly it without a GoPro. Maybe put an 03 on there. If I can squeeze one in, I'll let you know. But for now, I'm going to fly it the way it is with the air unit on there because the video looks nice, and I'm able to now use my goggles too with this one with the new firmware update. So I'm stoked on that. But I appreciate you guys. Please do subscribe for more new quads coming out and new stuff in the FPV community, and honest reviews, guys. I'm Mr. Camps. I will see you on the next one.